Hello everyone, Antipeter1M here. I haven't done a kind of pep talk for a while, so I thought I would jump into the idea of thought architecture. It's an idea that I thought of a few months or years ago, probably years in fact, and never really discussed. But I think it's really important to think about how thoughts are not just random things, but are built into beautiful things like architecture. You might imagine it as a kind of architecture. That's the picture I'm trying to draw in your minds. Now, I was recently helping Vegan Sidekick, who has about at least 120,000 followers on Facebook alone, with his page, which describes all the questions and the answers from vegans regarding the exploitation of animals. So he has systematically put together all the things that non-vegans ask and generated answers for them. And then linked, put various links into kind of, if ask this question, you get this answer, then you ask this question, you get this answer. So it's kind of loopy, kind of systematic way of addressing exploitation of animals. And I think it's really important that this revolution in veganism that has happened over the last several years now has been able to be built on thought architecture. You might otherwise think of thought architecture as a framework for and structure for your reasoning and your rationality as a human. So with Vegan Sidekick, I just advised him on how to reformat his page. I didn't do any of the advice on his actual content, but I did advise him on things like spacing and font color and size. And yeah, it was nice to deal with, and he was friendly and polite, so I'm pleased about that. Now, I will say that having dealt with Anonymous for the Voiceless, probably the most famous animal rights organization in the world, I also know that they have a lot of thought architecture in their strategies for trying to convert non-vegans to veganism. I know this in their activism and the videos that they put out, that they have very strict answers to every question. And it seems to work really, really well, in my opinion. So we may also go to the idea of thought architecture in literature. So where does it appear in literature? Well, it appears in the idea of themes, and universal themes in particular, because people seek themes in literature which are universal. It's essentially the same thing as thought architecture. It's like finding something within ourselves which we didn't know about, which wasn't in our consciousness, but which is brought to light, which epitomizes our existence and makes us understand ourselves better as humans. So, for example, in Hamlet, the famous lines, "To be or not to be, that is the question, whether it is noble in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them." That sort of thing is the universal theme, right? About whether to act or not act in a crisis situation. And I think it's universal. Well, it is very universal. It's the most universal lines in all of English literature. My poem Inland Surfer, which I'm happy to link in the description below, is also extremely universal, and is an idea of thought architecture and how the progress of a human being from being lost in the void to being distinct and malevolent and predatory is the essence of that poem. And of course, even writing from a blank page, when we have writer's block, we can't think of anything and everything seems so random. But when we actually start to put things together, even from a random seed of an idea, a skilled poet will be able to cultivate something from that seed, which is far more magnificent and significant than something which is just random thoughts. So there is some great thought architecture in writing poetry, which is significant. Now, there's a lot of information out there, especially with the advent of the internet and that sort of thing, all the collected information and so many documents and so much data going through the funnels and channels and pipes of life and human civilization, that we have to really be scrutinized and be very selective in what information we decide to consume. There's a lot out there which is just a waste of our time, really. And that's why getting reviews and getting recommendations for what to read is so important to me, especially. So, thought architecture validates the idea that humans can be different and better as a result of gaining knowledge and learning. If there were no thought architecture, there would be no buildings of knowledge, know-how, and how to do anything. Like, ranging from handyman jobs to building a spaceship to learning how to deal with people in an ethical way. All of these things are examples of thought architecture. And I think some thought architecture is more rote learning than other things. So by rote learning, I mean that, if you go to medical school, you learn all these extraordinarily intricate terminologies and that sort of thing, which I believe is taking up your brain space a lot. And it doesn't really appeal to me. But poetry, now that is the imagination, that is looking at things in a new light all the time, and that really appeals to me. So, but there are some things that I can't do with poetry, such as building something from DNA, which a medical student may be able to do or be equipped mentally to be able to do. Now, I've long said that I believe that in my university, if I owned a university, you'd have to pass ethics, including veganism, in order to graduate, and I still stand by that because I believe that the thought architecture generated by the new vegan generation in the last several years, at least, or at least in kind of in the last half of the 20th century, has been so important to creating that thought architecture and making us understand the reasoning behind ethics and behind so much of our life and the choices that we make. Hope you've learned something from this video, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.